In what I consider to be the worst year in tech in recent memory, if not ever, Intel's new Panther Lake mobile chips are one of the very few bright spots. And from a tech enthusiast perspective, it is very impressive and great to see Intel finally not only competitive, but beating AMD in a lot of cases. Reviewing Intel-based mini PCs has not been fun for the last 4 years or so, with very few reasons to consider them unless they were attractively priced. But now, well, how the tables have turned. And while this is the best ASUS NUC we've seen since the company took over the NUC line from Intel, there are caveats. And a very big caveat. Yep, in this computing market, there are no winners. Well, except at Samsung, SK Hynix and Micron. I do hope they enjoy their spoils from fleecing the whole planet and get what's coming to them, especially when Chinese memory makers start flooding the market with cheap RAM. The ASUS NUC 16 Pro's form factor is similar to the 15 Pro Plus we looked at last year, although it's black instead of silver and is mostly plastic with a metal frame for reinforcement, as well as a metal backplate or underplate, whatever you prefer to call it. While it doesn't particularly give off premium vibes, build quality is solid. The unit I was loaned for review features Intel's Core Ultra X7 358H, and there's an X9 version, which is the top model. Further CPU variants below these two are also available. From a CPU core perspective, the X7 358H is pretty unimpressive, on paper at least. While it does have 16 cores, only 4 of those are P or performance cores, 8 are E or efficient cores, and the remaining 4 are LPE or low power efficient cores. All 3 types have different clock speeds, and none of them support hyperthreading. But in general, cores, clocks, and other CPU specs don't mean much. All we care about is how quickly it computes what we throw at it, and we'll go over that shortly. Intel has added a much higher maximum memory speed than we've seen before, which in this case is handled by included LPDDR5X memory, although this NUC 16 Pro does not top out at the maximum supported 9600 megatransfers. The last thing I want to point out about the X7 is the new Intel ARC B390 iGPU, which takes up a big chunk of the die and is made to rival lower-end discrete mobile graphics chips. We've seen this approach with AMD's Ryzen AI Max 395 Plus in a larger form factor and much higher maximum power draw. Now this is Intel's take in something closer to the traditional NUC style form factor with a lower power limit, and as someone who's been tinkering with NUC mini PCs almost since the beginning of the first Intel release back in late 2013, I'm incredibly happy we've gotten to this point where integrated graphics are no longer a meme, and they've reached the potential I had imagined all those years ago. Included in the box is a compact 19.5 volt 150 watt power supply, VESA mount and screws, as well as the usual paper trail I never look at. It would be better off as a QR code download link instead of printed at this point, but hey, these things take time. Motherboards with drivers on a CD still existed until recently. Well, maybe they still exist, even though I haven't had an optical drive for around 15 years. But whatever. On the front of the Mini, we have dual USB-A 10GB and USB-C 10GB data only. Inside is a Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth card. The back has the barrel jack power connector, dual Thunderbolt 4, dual HDMI 2.1, dual USB 3 10GB, and dual 2.5GB LAN. That's a lot of doubling up, just how we like it. Once again, no 3.5mm audio jack. Sorry, analog audio fans. And to my biggest surprise, the ASUS NUC 16 Pro still doesn't feature Thunderbolt 5. Gotta say, the uptake has been disastrous amongst mini PCs. We haven't seen any mini PC with Thunderbolt 5 yet, even though it's been found in laptops since around late 2024. There are even Thunderbolt 5 eGPUs, but no mini PC to use them with. Usually, it's the other way around. One cool thing about the ASUS NUCs is how easy they are to open, and they're tool free. Pull on the lever and pull up. Beautiful. There's a small fan here and a thermal pad for cooling the SSDs, one which is the M.2 Gen 4 X4 NVMe slot above the Wi-Fi Bluetooth card, and the other is Gen 5 X4. The soldered LPDDR5X RAM on this unit is 64GB in size and tops out at 8533 megatransfers, which is quite a bit below the maximum 9600 supported. With RAM now included even with the bare bones, in the current totally fair and free marketplace, the price has shot up substantially over last year's 15 Pro Plus, as that particular component doesn't come cheap. While I didn't see the 64GB RAM version, the 32GB RAM bare bones model comes in at $1,700 US and still requires storage and an OS. And yes, you are correct. It is the most expensive NUC of this size we've seen yet. This review unit did come with Windows 11 Pro, but that will depend on the vendor selling the Mini as a pre-build, as will the SSD brand and model that they include. I did test Ubuntu, and the latest non-LTS release worked fine. Since so many different mini PCs are reviewed on the channel, I have 3 sets of charts separated based on price, usage case, and form factor. While this mini PC is priced closer to larger workstation or gaming mini PCs, I think the form factor is more important, and I've placed it together with its previous generations and similar competitors. The final thing to note is that the ASUS NUC 16 Pro is set to a balanced mode profile out of the box, and this, along with the performance mode, was tested. Cinebench Single Core shows the NUC 16 Pro X7 CPU to be one of the top performers, even matching AMD's flagship HX470. Unfortunately, we did not get to review a 200 series Ultra 7, so we can't compare, but it's likely a small improvement over the previous generation and a big jump over the Ultra 7 100 series from 2 years back. Multi-core out of the box is also impressive with just 4 P-cores, around HX370 level. Unlike single core, the performance mode did show a better result, rising by just under 2.5%. Geekbench has a range of CPU tests and places the NUC 16 Pro again near the top with similar performance to AMD's HX370. This time, performance mode provided just over 1% improvement. Say hello to our new multi-core winner. Having used Geekbench for a long time now, I wasn't surprised to see the NUC 16's Pro X7 take the top spot, as fast memory helps with this benchmark, and performance mode push things even further. Next up, we use the CPU to encode a video file with the H.264 codec. It's a short video file, and the X7 wins out again at just 72 seconds. It also wins the much longer AV1 CPU encoding test, whether it's out of the box or with performance mode. If we add the hardware encoding capabilities of the iGPU along with the CPU, the same AV1 encode is cut down to just 57 seconds. Not the fastest result, but very close to it. This NUC is pushed by ASUS as an option for OpenClaw. Well, here's a dirty little secret for you. Open source apps like OpenClaw primarily use the CPU and GPU, with no NPU support, which is why I can't even compare Intel and AMD NPUs in Geekbench AI. Since the complexity of the graph only caters for one result, the best one is used, and CPU-wise, the X7 is not too far off AMD's HX370 or HX470 refresh. However, on the AI GPU side, it's complete domination for the X7. There's nothing even close to it. The same can be said for the 3D Mark graphics numbers, although Intel's 3D Mark results are typically inflated and haven't translated to workloads such as gaming. For example, Intel's 285H is definitely not on par with a Ryzen HX370 in gaming, but as you'll soon see, things have changed this time around. However, 3D Mark has always been good at signaling a ballpark improvement on the previous Intel generation, and in this case, Firestrike shows a 92% improvement over the Ultra 9, which is bananas, 85% in TimeSpy, and 77% in Steel Nomad Lite. All well and good, looks like the fastest integrated graphics in this form factor by a massive margin. But is that the case? Well, let's see how it holds up against the previous i9 and AMD's HX470 we've tested in a couple of games. All the games tested are without any image upscaling or frame generation, And yes, the X7 has the memory speed advantage over the HX 470 units SOTA memory. With an esports title like Counter-Strike 2, neither the HX 470 nor the NUC 16 Pro are able to fully utilize their GPU with these settings due to a CPU bottleneck. But overall, the NUC is better across the board. Let's switch it up to a AAA title like Cyberpunk 2077, which is one of the games Intel proudly showcased with Panther Lake, and here we can see why. A huge generational boost in frame rate and far better than AMD's Ryzen HX 470. This kind of frame rate allows for higher detail or resolution settings, and at this wattage and this form factor, it's very impressive. Continuing against the HX 470, Doom the Dark Ages is unplayable on AMD's chip with these settings. The X7 manages to almost double the frame rate in this very GPU heavy game. The same can also be said for Space Marine 2. Another older game that has had a low frame rate is Hellblade 2. Now it's decent enough that some detail settings can be improved for this walking simulator, which is plenty fine to play at 30 FPS. And now for a couple bonus titles. Call of Duty Warzone on the latest Avalon map easily stays above 60 FPS. And the latest Resident Evil almost hits 60 FPS. Raw performance is impressive, and upscaling with frame generation can push things much further. Finally, I tried Killzone 2 on the PS3 emulator, and we get a healthy frame rate, although we're heavily CPU bound. It's still a while before this runs at 60 FPS on a mini PC with this form factor. So overall, a very impressive showing from Intel on the GPU side, even leapfrogging AMD, and the 3D Mark benchmarks are finally pretty accurate. It's also possible to use an eGPU with a USB 4 board if you need even more graphics performance, although again, I think Thunderbolt 5 should have been included. Alright, back to the benchmarks. For compiling code, the X7 is a good option, but AMD's HX 470 is by far the fastest available, slashing the time by around 10 seconds. There's strong performance with Adobe Photoshop, although AMD once again has the lead. However, that's not the case in Adobe Premiere. The X7 is far ahead in video editing, and it's an editor's portable device dream. The Samsung Gen 5 NVMe SSD included with this review unit is unimpressive, with even a Gen 3 drive coming out ahead in this benchmark, based on real-world tests. Just goes to show, high sequential speeds mean little for everyday use, which is why I dumped Crystal Disk Mark in favor of this storage benchmark. Cooling for it is great, with the SSD way below thermal throttling territory. The NUC 16 Pro has the best Bluetooth range tested yet. I had to go out on the street to lose a signal. And no problem with wireless range at 10 meters or 33 feet from the router using the 5G band. Idle power draw is similar to previous generation ASUS NUCs at 9 watts, while the maximum power draw is just over 100 watts out of the box and 115 with performance mode enabled. That's much less than the previous generation, and very impressive when you experience its GPU performance relative to the competition. Maximum CPU temp was also a little better, with it topping out at 99C using either power mode. Fan noise is unchanged from the previous generation. It is higher than most of the mini PCs we test. The only thing I will mention is that the fan is not as high pitched and annoying as others on this list, which makes it seem not as loud. I found the out-of-box fan noise to be very tolerable, and yet it maxes out at 46 dBA with all cores under load, which is normally much too high for my ears. That being said, no way would I be running this in performance mode for the tiny performance gains and massive increase in noise. My ears would fight me. As for its size, the NUC 16 Pro is no larger or smaller than the 15 Pro Plus and is a compact unit for its wattage. The F2 key on startup will give you access to the BIOS. In the Advanced tab, going into the display section shows the minimum amount of RAM dedicated to the iGPU. However, it does mention it's determined by the driver. ARC Control in Windows allocates 36GB of shared VRAM with the OS on this 64GB system. It's likely half that with the 32GB model, so this setting isn't useful. HDMI CEC is supported. Unfortunately, I didn't see an option to overclock the RAM. Wake on LAN is on by default. The power mode lets you, well, set the power mode. Surprise! You can also customize it. What the Mini does after a power failure is available here as well. The cooling option is affected by the power mode chosen, but you can select a fixed setting or a custom one, and that's everything from the BIOS. The essentials are covered. And now it's time for the Mini PC checklist. So we've got a plastic Mini PC with good build quality. The price is, well, do I really need to say anything? I tried all 3 USB-C ports and none of them can power the Mini PC, which makes sense for a unit with a 150 watt power supply. The ASUS NUCs are now some of the easiest minis on the planet to open, and I freaking love it. Keep it up. While fast RAM is included, it isn't the fastest supported. And of course, you can't replace it. Everything else is pretty good. CPU temp has improved, Bluetooth and wireless range is excellent. However, load fan noise is higher than most. I use Latency Mon to check for possible recording latency issues during audio production, and this Mini did not pass. If you want good support for your Mini PC, ASUS provides drivers and BIOS updates and does a better job at it than most. There's no external CMOS reset and a longer 3-year warranty is included. The ASUS NUC 16 Pro is the best Mini PC that has come from the company, thanks to Intel finally creating a cool mobile CPU. But at what cost? Well, you know the cost. $1,700 US for the bare bones with RAM. So much like AMD's Ryzen AI Max 395 Plus, these bleeding edge mobile chips are hard to justify on a value basis unless you have deep pockets and want the best. And I know you're out there, as I've seen the affiliate sales. So if that's you, then sure, this mobile chip kicks butt for the form factor. And speaking of affiliate sales, that's a major source of income and what has made this channel viable. So if you like reviews like this one, take a look at the links in the video description, and anything you buy there at no cost to you gives me a small cut. I don't ask you to buy crappy overpriced merch, and there's little sponsorship on this channel, so show some love. Like and subscribe, share, all the good stuff. And if you're interested in a mini PC made especially for gaming, I recently reviewed the ASUS ROG GR70 gaming mini PC, which you can check out right here. Cheers!